And welcome back to HealthSparx, featuring the brightest entrepreneurs and innovations in health and technology. I'm your host, Michael Walsh. Thanks for stopping by. Here's a story, people. Health and technology right now, absolutely exploding. Crazy stuff going on in the industry. So many changes going on with the Affordable Care Act coming into place. Lots of startups and lots of innovation coming about. That's what HealthSparx is all about. Bringing you these stories, talking about entrepreneurs and innovations in the space, talking about just how do we get something like this going if you are one of these budding entrepreneurs, and trying to shed some light on just everything going on. I mean, it's all crazy. The Affordable Care Act is in full swing right now. Lots going on within the hospitals, in skilled nursing facilities, and senior care, and pediatrics, and cancer, everything. It's all going nuts right now. So that's what HealthSparx is all about. So thanks so much for stopping by and checking the show out. Really appreciate it. On today's show, another example of a great entrepreneur. Her name is Ela Emami. She spent like 10 years in the healthcare space. Came up with this great idea, and she's working in Memphis right now to bring it all to life. So wanted to get her on the show to share her story. This is the first time I'm actually having somebody on the show who's pre-launch, but love the idea and the concept of what she was working on, and I actually got a chance to meet her back in February at a conference. So invited her to come on to tell all of you guys what she's doing, and hope we can have an awesome episode here from it. It should be great. So a couple quick reminders as always before we get going. Make sure you subscribe to HealthSparx here on the website. Just go to healthsparx.com/subscribe. I will send all the content straight to your email boxes, along with a bunch of other goodies that I'm planning on doing, advice, tips, perks, fun stuff like that. So check that out. And also a quick shout out, as always, to my good buddies at Satori Tech Solutions here in Dallas. These guys are awesome. They took out a bunch of meetings this week with a bunch of health startups, and the chief technology officer over there, Andrew Taylor, has been coming back to me telling me all sorts of great stuff from that. So check these guys out. They're doing great work in this space. They could definitely help you out with whatever you need, whether it be mobile or just web development, SEO, social media. Give these guys a call or check out their website, satoritechsolutions.com. So with that said, let's jump into our show. All right, today on HealthSparx, I've got a good friend of mine, Ela Emami. I've had to say that a couple times to myself just to make sure I don't butcher it. I keep saying Ela or Ola. But Ela Emami, she is the founder and CEO of Care2Manage, a startup that's getting launched out in Memphis. And I had a chance to meet Ela back in February at the Everywhere Else conference, a startup conference out in Memphis put on by the Niblets guys. So Ela, welcome to the show. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to have you. Excited to talk about your company. But before we get into Care2Manage a little bit, let's talk a little bit about you and your background. So give me the scoop. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Give me the details.
Well, it all started when I was 5 years old. Just kidding. It started later, much later than that. Well, been in Memphis for most of my life, so we'll just call me a Memphian. I have, school-wise, I have a master's in business and a master's in psychology. Professionally, I've worked in and out of the field of developmental disabilities and aging for over 10 years. And here we are after coming up with the idea for Care2Manage in August, did a 48-hour launch at Launcher City in November, and it just almost pretty much catapulted me into February, which was the conference, which catapulted me to where we are today.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, again, when I met Ela, Care2Manage was part of the Everywhere Else pitch contest, and she actually ended up winning the pitch contest. A panel of judges kind of put her through the grinder up on stage, and I sat there and I'm like, uh-oh. But she did awesome. She did great, won the pitch contest. We were super excited. It was a big win for health technology. So
it really is. I was very, very, very excited and unbelievable. I mean, I didn't even want to go to hear the results because I was like, yeah, the other guy got it. I sat in the back of the conference room. And then they started describing it. I was like, yeah, definitely it's the other guy. And then when they said Care2Manage, I was like, wait, that's me. Okay, well, I guess I better get up there.
So give a little bit more background. Just during your 10 years, you said you worked like with development disabilities and things like that. So you do have some healthcare experience that kind of led you down this path. So give us a little bit more context of some of the things that you've been through and seen in your 10 years in healthcare.
Well, I started out just kind of behavior specialist and then became the psychiatric liaison, and after that became kind of the medical liaison for the entire population that I was working with.
Now, where was this?
This was at a place called Badur Center. It's a residential for developmentally disabled adults.
Okay.
And it was my favorite job in the whole wide world because I had so much latitude after a while. And then I was managing the retirement program at the same time as I was being the medical liaison. So, I mean, we had a clinic, but if anybody ever had to go talk to any doctors or any social workers or whatever on behalf of the clients, that it was me.
Now,
so
you said 10 years. So what years were you doing this through? Was this recently you just left this job?
No, it was a couple of years ago actually that I left. It was 2000 actually when I started there.
Okay.
So yeah.
2010 then.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask, during your 10 years in healthcare, did you ever see yourself as an entrepreneur?
No. It's funny because I always imagined myself, when I grow up, I wanted to be more administrative and less hands-on because I felt like I could have a broader reach and impact as an administrative person. And I couldn't, it was, it's kind of like that faceless job. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like or what it was going to be. Or what shape it was going to take, but it was always, I knew it was always going to be something up there kind of administrative.
Right.
Potentially at the level of ED, but hey, look at me now. So.
Absolutely.
I just made my own.
Yeah. And I'm excited for you. I mean, before we jump too much into Care2Manage, I want to give the listeners a little bit of context about what the problem is here that Care2Manage is looking to solve, because it is a specific niche problem, but it's a growing problem. So let's talk a little bit about the problem here before we get into the product.
Okay. Well, part of the problem is that there is a baby boomer explosion about to happen, and right now my focus is basically on the caregivers, family caregivers that have families of their own. They have children, they have spouses, what have you, jobs, and then all of a sudden they're charged with caring for an aging loved one.
Right.
And that is, although it's not uncommon already, it's about to become an even bigger problem. And by problem, I mean just overstressing and just not having enough time to manage, the care coordination of that loved one, whether it's your own parents or your spouse's parents. Oftentimes, still, you have to do it all. So the whole premise of Care2Manage was to reach out to that group of individuals and kind of help them. We have several different parts, and I guess I'm just jumping right into it.
Let's go right into it.
Pieces to it. There's 3 automated pieces and then one which is more like human. And the 3 automated include an educative piece where we can tell you what's ailing grandma based on the information that you give us.
Right.
And then the second piece is kind of like a combination of Match.com and Angie's List where, oh, here you go. Based on that information, here's your new boyfriend. Here's your new provider,
Right.
That kind of thing. And then the third piece is going to be a organizational tool where you can have a calendar, you can have other medical information that you put in, what medicines that person's taking, what brand name of medicine even, because sometimes that makes a difference, what's been tried, what hasn't been tried, what did the doctor say, what did the doctor not say, what questions you might have, kind of a note-taking tool, whatever you want to make it. And that will be something that will have kind of like a print mode for it, what do they call it? Printable, whatever. Where you can print it out and take it with you to the doctor's office, or you can access it right there on whatever handheld device you have, so that you have that information at hand when you go to the doctor. We're actually meeting with a couple of doctors in different fields, maybe even more, to survey what information is most pertinent to them so that we can actually make that space in our organizational tool.
Awesome.
And the other piece is the human piece, where we can have care coordinators to kind of guide you through the jungle that has become elder care and insurance. Just kind of help people out, if you have any questions and what have you.
Sure.
I've actually already started doing that piece. I'm getting calls from friends that, we're getting of that age group, and I'm getting calls from friends. I've already had like 3 or 4 phone calls just in the past month, within the past 30 days that, oh my God, my mom this, that, and the other. Can you help me? And of course, I'm not set up yet. We'll be set up in October, so call me back,
Yeah.
So
I've gotten the same thing with CareLoop. Like, they call me like I know the answer. I'm like,
right.
I can direct you, but I probably don't know the person that you're supposed to go talk to.
Well, but that's the tricky thing about it. I do actually, because I've been working so and becoming so entrenched in the provider network that in Memphis right now, that I do actually have my Rolodex, and I'm just like, boop, there it is. You need to talk to so and so. Here's their number.
Right.
So so again, I'm not set up. There's no revenue, but that's fine. Because I'm doing what and it's actually very helpful because it tells me what I need to do and how I need to set it up. You know what I mean?
Sure. So you just touched on that. I was just going to ask. So when are you guys thinking you're going to be able to launch this? You guys are kind of in that production mode at this point, right?
We are actually in production mode right now. We are going to launch the first piece, which is the organizational tool, by January, February, March, July, September.
Okay.
That's the end of August, beginning of September. We're going to launch the organizational tool.
Great.
And then we're going to build on that. We just kind of felt like a 5-ton idea was a little bit much, so we're breaking it down into smaller pieces.
That's fine.
And by launching the organizational tool, I think it'll help us to hone that while we're developing the referral piece of it, the connector piece.
Right.
So, it's becoming so much more real. It's not even funny,
Yep, it's crazy how it's going to creep up on you too, Ela.
Yeah.
It's going to be like you're going to be looking at the calendar and it's going to be August. You're like, holy crap, like what happened?
Yeah.
But it's going to come fast, so I'm sure there's a lot to do in the process. I'm curious, just listening, and you and I had talked a bit back in February about it a little. And you weren't quite sure, I don't think, but I'm curious if you kind of nailed it down yet, the business model for this and how you kind of want to proceed with all of that.
With the revenue, you mean?
Correct.
Well, we're still considering the subscription and the referral. That's pretty much going to be a given. The subscription fee will be nominal. Excuse me. But the referral fee, I think, will be whatever the average market, referral fee is.
Right.
$250 per pop, something like that.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be fine. And as far as, how is that going to cover the social worker / care coordinator? Actually, that's going to have to become a premium service and potentially, pay for, like kind of as you go along. Initially, it's not like we're going to have a bank of people. I think initially just one person should be enough. And then we'll kind of see how it pans out. Of course, when we roll out, we're rolling out beta first. So, we're going to have a continuing education for social workers in September. 3 hours of ethics, and then, I don't know, maybe some elder care stuff for the other 3 hours, so it's a full day of credit for them. And that's how we're going to roll out, kind of introduce Care2Manage to the social workers that are in this area right now.
Yeah, and we've had similar success with that strategy here in Texas by putting on those CEU events for social workers and discharge planners, and
Right.
Yeah, you gotta foot the bill for lunch every time, but you get a good opportunity to get a bunch of people in a room and actually hear from them directly.
Right.
And yeah, maybe do a quick demonstration of the product and kind of get their reaction to it.
Exactly.
So it has been effective for us. So
Good.
that'll be good. And speaking of, since we're on the topic and I haven't had a chance to talk about this on the show yet, let's kind of step over into that realm for a second, into the social worker and care coordinator type role. And, what problems are those guys seeing? Because you have to have been sitting with them as well as you've been building
Yes.
this.
Well, other than being overwhelmed and just being, discharge social workers, I think part of the problem is they're just overworked and underpaid, just like everybody else.
Yeah. It's like being a teacher. It's the same kind of thing,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. And and I've said this from the beginning, even before I started touching base with anybody, any particular group, just from the experience that I had working, as a medical liaison. Oftentimes people don't realize that anytime you set foot in a hospital, you are assigned a case manager. Now, whether you actually see that person or talk to that person or whatever before discharge, that's a whole nother game. But you do have a social worker, and you're well within your rights to ask about that person and demand that they, talk to you.
That they actually do their job and help you out. Even
right.
And again, that's not a knock on them. It's
exactly. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just a matter of having too many people on your caseload. And I know that there are limits as to how many people you can have on your caseload and all that stuff, but still, I think the numbers are very skewed. It's kind of like having 30 kids to a teacher,
Right.
It sounds okay until it's actually put into action, and then you're like, what? So I think it's the same problem that is very prevalent in health services, any kind of social services, really, now.
We've been in, I don't know if you've been in this situation. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We've been in situations before where we've sat with some of these social workers and they'll literally be in tears talking about some of the things that they've dealt with. And, they're naturally, emotional, care, right, exactly. Like that's why they're social workers. They've made a pledge in life to just, care for people and to help people. But we've sat in meetings before where we're talking about some of this stuff and they're brought to tears just with some of the things they deal with. So,
we have a social worker on our board for this exact reason, so that we can have that inside, perspective of, what's going on in that world.
And that's a great thing to bring up. I'm curious. Just talk a little bit about who has been involved in this project for Care2Manage. So, it's you. Have you had any advisors or any, developers you've brought in? So, yeah, who's on your team?
All right. Well, I have a technical advisor. I don't have a developer yet or programmer that I can say is exclusively doing this. But I have a technical advisor that has Richard McCowan. He has years and years of experience developing programs for DOD, Tennessee Highway Association, and a number of other, organizations and entities. And he is basically pouring the foundation for the automated pieces that are going to be online.
Excellent.
And he's working on developing the first piece. Hopefully, by then we will have a little bit of cash flow that will allow us to actually hire a programmer to fill in the rest of the blanks. Right. So that's the technical part of it. As far as having advisors, I have been so fortunate to have had FaceTime with some of the executives of Baptist Hospital, the Methodist Hospital. I have several doctor friends that have been extremely helpful, and they're in developing different pieces of the organizational tool piece of the thing, right, of Care2Manage, and so I just I don't feel comfortable necessarily naming every single one of them, but
I've been
been very lucky in having that access to that. And I think I can attribute that to Memphis. I love Memphis. I love it. And one of the things that I love about Memphis is people really genuinely want to help you. That whole thing about Southern charm and Southern, on the outside candy coated this, that, and the other. I haven't really run into it. People that genuinely want to help will say, I want to help. And they do. There's been a lot of follow through on those niceties, so to speak. So I don't consider them niceties. I consider it just, I've been very, very fortunate. So
we've seen a lot of the same here. Coming from the Midwest, which is also typically a pretty friendly area. It's known for that. Right. Southern hospitality exists, people. It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, people will go out of their way just to help you out, and that's just how it is. It's not really like they're doing it because they want something in return.
This is so funny. I went to an expo last week, and it was a aging elder care expo at a church here, and there was over 100 booths. I would say maybe between 100 and 200, let's just say. And it was huge. And, so I was walking through, and I know half the people already because of all the networking that I've been doing. So it was more like, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
But there was a lot of people that I didn't know. And so as I was walking through, and I was like, okay, so here's what we're doing, and here's how you fit in, and here's your marketing piece, and this, that, and the other, and we were talking. By the time I got halfway through, I was so tired. I was like, can I just have a business card? Can I just have a... I'll call you later, I promise. And they were completely on the same page. They were like, yeah, okay, here you go. Just call me. I was like, okay, perfect, thank you. And then some people would ask, so what do you do? And I'm like, damn it, But still, you just do what you got to do. But, I literally have a bag, those expo bags full of business cards now I have to get on.
That's how
I'm giving myself about 6 to 8 months to do this, because this is for the second piece that's going to be, rolled out. So first, let's do the first piece. So.
Sure. So real quickly, you've touched on a couple of points, but just kind of bringing it back, the marketing and growth strategy for this. Is the hope that this be, start as a Memphis thing and kind of regionalize itself through the Southeast and build from there, or
yes.
How are you thinking you do this as far as growing this thing out?
Exactly. I think regionally would be the wisest thing to do. However, it may end up, we may end up picking what state we want next, just based on population and demographic numbers. So we may come to Texas.
I was going to say,
never know.
Come on down. We'd love to have you.
Yep.
The startup community down here is starting to really pick up the pace, so it'd be great to have another health tech entrepreneur down this way.
That'd be great.
So,
yeah, that's where we are. And we are also actually considering going into the world of developmental disabilities, because a lot of the care needs are very similar. It's just a different, it's like 31 flavors, it's all ice cream, just a different flavor.
Sure.
So...
Well, taking a step back from Care2Manage, just kind of some lessons and some things here that you've picked up along the last year or two as this has all come together. Kind of curious if you could name off. I totally understand that as an entrepreneur you make mistakes all the time, but can you think of the biggest mistake you've made to this point with this whole thing?
The biggest mistake I've made?
Yeah, the biggest mistake that has come up with this whole thing and what you learned from it.
Well... This isn't the biggest mistake, but this is like one thing that I tell everybody and anybody that thinks they might want to be in this space, is understand that there are high highs, but there are very low lows.
Totally.
If you cannot deal with that, then you're not...
You're not going to cut it.
Don't come in. Do not come in. Because you will waste your time and energy, and it hurts. The low lows hurt. It's not a joke. It's you better have a really, really, really good support network and team, and to pick you up and dust you off when you can't pick yourself up and dust yourself off. So that's like my number one advice. And again, it's not a mistake or anything, but to answer, yes, definitely. And the other thing is, everybody's got a good version of your idea, but it's not always going to be the right version. And there is no right and wrong, of course, but don't get overexcited about other people's add-ins, because it may take you down the road and then you find that you have to backtrack and come back,
Right.
Oh my God, that's a great idea. Let's go. And then you start running in that direction, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, let's back right up, and so you've lost that time. And
you got to be able to say no sometimes.
Yeah, and you have to be able to be still and think it through. Don't run down anything, just be still for a minute, think it through, do the research maybe, but don't run down that road until it's the right road to run down. So that would be something that I have actually done, and yeah.
It's good advice. It's kind of, I think, the first time it's even been mentioned on the show that as a startup, you just can't do it all.
Yeah,
you think you can and you want to do it all, but you got to focus at some point. And it sounds like for you guys, again, the focus is going to be on the caregiver for that elderly or senior, mother, grandmother, whatever it is.
Right.
And again, like on the other end of it, then the social worker or care coordinator sort of working through that process. And that's a good focus because, again, there's a lot of activity going on there right now. Right. There's so much. There's so many other applications for it, obviously, but you got to focus somewhere. So it's great advice. Well, I mean, again, we could talk forever about some of this stuff. There's problems galore with this whole system right now, but super excited for you that you're going to be able to get this out here this fall and kind of start kicking some ass out there in Memphis and solving some of this. So keep in touch with us. I'd love to have you back on maybe right around the time of the launch, and
that'd be great.
Check in and see how things are going for Care2Manage.
Thanks, and congratulations on your recent launch yourself.
Appreciate it. Yeah, well, again, let's chat some more. It'd be great to get you down here to Dallas at some point and start showing this model off to the people down here, because I think there's a lot of application for this as well here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, looking forward to checking in soon. And again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. And that'll about do it from HealthSparx today, from Ela Emami, my distinguished guest. Great stuff from her. Really excited to see what Care2Manage can bring to the health and technology community and how it can better connect that caregiving group and the social workers and case managers on the other end of things. Ela is not lying. I'm seeing this stuff firsthand in Texas and all over the country. This is a big problem, so excited that she's jumping in to help solve some of it. So thanks, Ela, again for coming on the show. A couple of quick things before we wrap up. I would love some feedback from you guys. We're about now 8 episodes in. I've got a couple other episodes that we're recording here this week to get ready. I would love some feedback. How am I doing? Do you guys like the show? Do you like the guests? Do you like the format I'm delivering it in? If you're listening and you can maybe send me some feedback, I'd love to hear from you. So send me a note, michael@healthsparx.com, or just shoot me a note on Twitter. The Twitter handle is just HealthSparx. Would love to hear how things are going. What do you like? What don't you like? Bring on the feedback. I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job of delivering the great stories to you, tips and advice and good content, and anything else. Bring it on. So thanks again for listening to today's show. Really enjoyed it, and looking forward to next week. We should have another great guest coming on. I don't want to give too much away just yet, but he is not from America. I will say that. He is from the other end of the world in Australia. We're going to have a great time. It's my buddy Jason Barrick-Lewis. He's got his own blog and his whole own following down in Australia, so he's going to be on the show, and we're going to have a ball. So until then, I'm your host, Michael Walsh. See you guys later.